Hello everyone, I'm Lord Formand here with Imperator Rome and some tips to help you play the game better. So I already did a video on basic economy stuff, so go check that one out if you haven't. This one's going to be focused a bit more on stability and just general tips to help you. There's lots of little things and little concepts you need to understand to play the game better. Here are some of them. Okay, so one of the big ones is using Rome here. Really should be using another example, but it's not hard to show you. When you conquer tribal land as a civilized nation, you're going to end up with tons of tribal settlements, and you don't want them, right? Well, previously in the game, you had to go through, find out where they were, and click each individual province to remove them. Now you can simply go to your macro builder, and when you click on building something, this is the best part. So if we want to build barracks, it shows us. It shows us where stuff like that are built. See these? They both have a barracks. They show up here, purple lines. I can simply go here, right click. I have now destroyed that barracks. Works on tribal settlements and provincial legations. Saves you a ton of trouble. Also helps you track down forts and stuff if you're struggling with that. Very useful. Saves you a lot of trouble. Next one, warfare. Legions are pretty much, as a rule, 10 times better than levies. There are exceptions. Pyrrhus's levy in Epirus at the beginning of the game is probably stronger than any legion you could raise because he commands it. So it's worth considering. But by and large, legions should be a supplement to your levies. Levies are not bad, but you don't want to use them. But early on, you're going to have way more levies than you're going to have legions, and then it should flip once you hit the level where you can fully have like a 30,000, 25,000 size legion. At that point, your legion should basically be your only thing you use at war. You shouldn't need levies whatsoever. So you want to head towards legions as fast as you can. Now, thankfully, if you're a successor state, Macedon, Egypt, Thrace, Antigonids, Seleucid, and the Mora, you start with a legion. You want to max that legion out as fast as you can. In terms of Rome has, obviously, it's locked behind becoming a regional power. And then, obviously, building more is locked behind great power and the invention cohorts. It's not worth beelining for cohorts early on. You can, and you'll get some pretty nice discipline bonuses. But by and large, you only need this when you're about to hit the great power status. And this one, regional power is not that hard to get. Rome is very close to it at the beginning of the game. Regional power, 25 provinces. Rome has 23. You take over 2 provinces. You can raise a legion. You want to get that legion as soon as you can. I said that early on legions are a support for your levies at the beginning of the game, and it's true for most countries. Countries that have large populations can obviously raise more levies, and of course can raise more legions. You can see here that Italia, which is this area, can raise much more of a legion than Magna Graecia. That's because of the population. The same population you use to raise levies is going to mostly be used to raise legions. Get for the legions, put in your strongest area, and once you can afford economically to max it out, do so. Don't max it out initially unless you can afford it. You want to keep probably about 3 to 4 gold positive a month at all times. Now, that can change whether you're at war, when you're raising troops, etc., etc. But by and large, you want to have an excess of cash coming in each month because it does make a difference. And it will save you a lot of trouble from events. And if you need to hire mercs or stuff, it'll save you as well. So get to a legion as soon as you can, but don't max it out until you can economically afford it. Instead, use it to get heavy infantry and siege ability, and then use your levies to fight alongside it to actually win the battles. Use your legion as shock troops, and then very quickly, once you're a regional power and can afford it, it should become your main troops, at which point you really don't need levies. I think when I did my Rome game, once I conquered this area, after that point, I never raised a levy again except to handle a Carthaginian invasion. Even outnumbered like 5 to 1, the legion was enough. Legions are really good, especially versus tribal nations. So focus on that. Next one. This is something that a lot of people are having issues with, so I figured I'd bring it up. So your tech page, you've got it. People go here, they go, oh, I can't move it around. It's your middle mouse button. Yeah. Surprisingly. I don't know if there's any other button, but it's the middle mouse button. It does tell you down here. Some people kind of fail at it. It's worth mentioning just because people are having issues with it. Probably will change, but you never know. Integrated pops. Now, I'm not going to go into this in great depth because that's worthy of a whole video on its own. This is basically just a quick explanation for it. So obviously you have different levels of population. You have tribesmen, slaves, freemen, citizens, nobles. In some ways this should almost be flipped here because tribesmen are definitely above the slaves, but whatever. When you take over a culture, it is automatically freeman status. If you want to, cause issues for it and make more tax but less, loyalty, you make them slaves. I've never really found the use of making that many slaves. I'm sure somebody could tell you why you could concentrate all the slaves in an area, have a slave culture, and make tons of money. But since tax is not that valuable, commerce is, I found sticking with freemen by and large as a rule pretty good. It makes it an unintegrated culture. The only integrated two are citizens and nobles. Your nobles are always going to be from your starting culture. And promoting another culture to it causes unhappiness. Like literally, if I go here and I say I want to make them nobles, not only do we get a 4% for having an integrated culture, which we don't at the moment, that is actually the promotion from the freeman to the citizen. And then go down here, we have primary culture, integrated culture, another -5 happiness. So to promote it, it would give me -9 happiness in my culture. And then it takes time to integrate, of which there'll be events and stuff. But by and large, flipping and adding population to your cultures causes issue. It slows down their integration. It's only worth doing if you have a massive population. So don't do it for, 7 population Hebrew at the beginning of the game in Rome. Do it for when you, conquer the Sahadic region here or something massive. We're going to have massive population. The Magdia population here, for example, or Rome itself. Anything that probably gives you a couple hundred population might be worth it. Anything less, it's debatable. And do be aware, it does break it up into the individual culture groups. So unless you find a large one, an individually small one, probably not worth doing. Like Umbrian up here, for example. It's not worth it. And within it, you do have decisions you can make. So obviously, each level has different effects. And it's worth reading them. But by and large, the ones I found is the right to enter legal contracts and protection against torture really do increase your cultural integration speed without immense penalties. Same thing here with right of intermarriage. You want to get that bonus cultural integration speed. So if you want to convert them and make them an accepted population, that's the way to go. If you want to give them just general cultural happiness, you can take these as well. Be aware there is a downside with temporary, but if you start giving them large bonuses, it can be a real problem. For example, with Rome up here. As you'd see, we can give them happiness, but we lose citizen and freeman culture output. It can get a pretty nasty penalty. So be aware what you get is a different thing. Like found colony, this culture gets lower culture integration speed, cultural happiness, but it does assimilate faster. And it's the assimilation you really want. The integration is not bad. It allows you to, promote them to integrate it faster, but otherwise not a big bonus. So colony's better. It does have a penalty for that culture. It makes them less likely. But once you convert them all, you don't have to deal with that penalty. So you're going to convert them, found a colony. You can't always revoke them. It's pretty useful. So basically, for stability reasons, if you got about 100 plus pops in a culture group, might want to consider integrating it. Probably not worth promoting it to nobles unless it's, massively or larger one. Macedon and Egypt maybe might consider it, but they already have a pretty good starting amount. But that's a thing. And that's also your cultural laws and general stuff you want to know about. Next thing, mercenaries. So, hilariously, Rome doesn't have any. Mercenaries can be very useful. You can find out about them on your military. No, not military. Where the heck are they? I forgot this. Normally, there we go. Mercenary tab. Zone tab. You can find them here. You can scroll to where they are, and you can see how much it is to recruit them. Cost them a base cost, and then they cost money to maintain each month, and then disbanding them costs money. And that can get really expensive as the game goes on. Like, cost 80 to hire, cost the same amount to disband, roughly. But if you're losing a war and you have to disband them because you're out of cash, it's going to be a problem. They're usually pretty good. You ideally want to grab the ones with supply chains. Ones without supply chains tend to starve. In general, mercenaries don't have the best supply upkeep, so keep an eye on that. You want the ones that, have the benefits. Like this one right here. It's got chariots, archers. Probably not as good as this one right here with heavy infantry. Their strength is different, but just keep an eye on what the makeup is. Also be aware when you hire them, it takes about 9 months for their morale to come up to a level where you can actually fight with them. I've made this mistake several times as Syracuse, which tends to focus in mercenaries, and it hurts. So basically raise mercenaries 6 months or so before a war, and you'll be pretty good. Thankfully, you can raise them while at peace and move them over. Once you get legions, though, mercenaries start to fall obsolete. But if you've got a lot of cash sitting around and you're a small country, that's really your only hope of fighting a large nation is with legions. Like, if you're a Greek city-state, right up here, Delphi, there's almost no way you can fight Macedon unless you've got, like, 800 or so gold in the bank and can hire a mercenary for the whole war. Then you might have a chance. But up until then, no, you're pretty much doomed. Another one is missions. So obviously you want to select missions, try and find ones in your area. But you don't have to complete the mission tree. Most people get confused about this. I don't understand why, but I figure I should mention it. You've got all these different things you can complete. You can go down here and get to the bottom without doing this approach Greeks. You can just leave. If you can't complete the mission and there's no real benefit, like this one allows diplomatic negotiations, but this one down here gains Roman hegemony. It doesn't have another effect beyond that. So it may not be worth doing that if you don't need it. There are other ones that, might give you gold or something for completing. But if you can't meet the requirements, there's no reason to pursue the tree further. Ending the mission doesn't cost you anything except you can't re-accept the missions. So like as Rome, I don't have any missions, but by and large, you're going to have a couple ones. So if you can't complete the mission or there's no benefit to, give up on the mission, move on to another one. Saves you a lot of time. Barbarians and civilizations. So under your map modes, which is not a default one, so you'll have to assign it, there is the Barbarian power map node. So barbarians spawn from these points at a % chance. It grows over time, by the way. And then they start invading and take land and raid and pillage. But every province they take, raid, or pillage costs them some of their population. So eventually they peter out. But they can do a lot of civilization damage in the meantime. So how do you stop them? Well, it's actually kind of easy. Basically, let's see. Here might be a good example. So Egypt right here has got a barbarian stronghold. However, they click here. Their governor has, as his policy for his province, is civilization. Once your civilization gets high enough, you get this additional bonus. Monthly chance of almost 10% increase the civilization of adjacent barbarian strongholds by 2. It's worth doing. You do this, get the civilization value up above the barbarian power ticking. So in this case, above 0.06 to 0.07. Eventually, the barbarian power will hit 0, and there will be no chance for barbarians spawning there. That's how you subdue regions. For example, Egypt has to spend a fair amount of time at the beginning game subduing barbarians. Otherwise, they get deluged in waves of barbarians. Not too hard, though. About 100 years in the game, most of these areas near the civilized world will be pacified. You'll have some that are out here, which almost always will be invading forces. In fact, as Rome, when I invaded the British Isles, the biggest threat actually came from the barbarians spawning in the Caledonian Highlands, because it took a while to build up the civilization value and subdue them. It's to show the issues of expanding. Obviously, the outer edge of the world, it's going to take you a long time to colonize or conquer to there and then reduce the barbarians. So be aware that they exist. Be aware that's how to deal with it. Stick forts on the border. It'll slow them down. It's just a thing that most people forget. Another thing is, in your government, you're going to have people who are unhappy. And once they're unhappy, they start to, gang together and form a war. However, a lot of people don't realize that you can pretty simply go to a person right here, and there's an option called bribe. You can bribe them. What most people don't realize is it comes out of your ruler's personal coffer rather than your government's. And your ruler's coffers, your ruler tends to be pretty wealthy, especially if they're a monarch. They get additional money, in this case, this guy's siphoning funds, but they get bonuses based off your nation's income, so they can have quite a bit. Bribing people, especially if they're, anything below 40, they're an issue. So if they're, 25 or higher, you bribe them, they'll become loyal for 48 months, which can stop many civil wars and uprisings. It's really worth doing. Along that note, policies here. If your province is about to rebel or is losing loyalty and you don't need the money, please put on harsh treatment. It gives a massive amount of provincial loyalty. That province will stay loyal. It does cost you a little bit of tyranny and political power each time. It's not really an issue. The cost is minimal. Feel free to change policies left and right. Next one, army. Once you raise a legion, I cannot raise a legion at this moment. Once you raise a legion, let me just jump to one of my games I have ongoing. Once you raise a legion, you have to assign tribunes and legates to it. So you do that by going to the legion page, and right up here is your different tribunes and legates. First entry will always be a legate, the rest will be tribunes. So basically the legate leads, and if the legate dies, a tribune will take over. Also, if you split up your legion into different ones, they will take over. These count as a office. They do not count as a political office. So in fact, one of the more annoying events right now is where someone demands a position in your government and you go to try and fill them and then you can't find them. It's because they actually already have an office here in the military. What you actually have to do is you have to go replace them or dismiss them. And then they are free, and then you put them in the government. So just be aware, you want to keep this relatively full. You want to keep an eye on the power base, though, of these characters, because they do get power base by being in the army. Obviously, higher in the army, larger power base, and they'll be commanding cohorts. But you can shift them around and remove them to lower power base and prevent loyalty. So there's a lot of little mechanisms to keep loyalty in check. Not going to go into all of them. That would be a separate video. But I think I've given you guys a rough idea of some more tips to keep your nation stable. And little things like the deleting of buildings using the macro builder is going to save you tons of time when it comes to invading tribal areas to make them profitable. So that's it from me. Go check out my other video, and I'm going to probably be doing some more guides for this. If you like this, please do like, subscribe, all the standard stuff, and I'll see you in another video. Bye for now.